I think that in light of the concerns raised, we need to again try to establish what is the outcome of those trying to do eventually get to some form of court, and whether or not those statistics result in, how they result. Otherwise, we're completely in the dark about what happens to police operations here. And I think there's slightly misleading. I would extend, I'm sure, the council's sincere support to the Councillor Cameron's partner who was assaulted, and I think it's a dreadful thing to have happened in this town centre, and I hope that they are feeling much better, and I'm sure it's quite a shocking incident for her to have experienced. I think that in light of that, it's even more important, I think, that we do try to get Simon or some other member of the team here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I'm aware. You said the last 3 years, and that is the period of time since we lost the alcohol ban in the high street. So the 40% increase has been during that period. That really, I think, underpins our push to get it reinstated. I know we've been asking for a year or two to have it reinstated, but this underlines how important it is that that gets reinstated.
Thank you,
Your Worship. I thank Councillor, our County Councillor, for giving us that information. But I also think that the police should be giving us that, and not our County Councillor. But I do think that with my colleague, I read what he said about the report, which is a very good report, and thank you very much, Councillor, for the report. Sorry, especially our phantom Councillor.
Thank you. Councillor Henderson?
Councillor, I'm going to articulate but what I will say is that I was obviously chair of the Town's Crime Prevention Committee, and we raised this very question that Catherine was raised about what happens. We don't see that information. And the answer we got was basically, well, what the information we get is the bit that the police do. It basically gets sent off to the CPS or whatever, and it then goes through the courts. So the police don't have that information. So that's what we're told. So, I think it's really important to find out what does happen in the town, but I suggest that we do an override request to the magistrates or some other body.
May I make a little suggestion on that? What you just said is entirely correct, and what it is the CPS which don't push these charges to court. So your answer lies with the CPS, and I'm not sure if you remember, I said in the town meeting 6 months or so ago, I said, why is no one asking this very question you guys are raising today, and so forth you for now talking about it, but you want to be asking the CPS, who is in charge of this, why are they not pushing these charges?
We know that. Councillor Henderson?
Brilliant, just to follow on from Councillor Lunny. Sergeant Nancy did break down, he has obviously got a lot more information than we get here, because we have been asking him for months, we need to know a little bit more, and he explained the information he gets, which obviously explains a little bit more about the different segments, and why other is such a big segment, and what other means, and things like that. So it did explain quite a lot to us. And he also explained that obviously the crime figures as to what happens after these figures are available, I think it's gov.uk, crime statistics or something like that. So you can, if you have a quick look, you can find out what happens at a certain case. I know it's a bit of a faff, but it is there. But it would be nice if maybe there's reasons that we don't get as fine a detail as Sergeant Nancy gets, but it is there if we ask for it.
Councillor King,
thank you. I just wanted to say a couple of things. First of all, this pie chart, does it have to be in those colours? Because personally, I think it's really hard to read. And then there's like 3 shades of green and blue, which are always exactly the same on there, particularly when they're really small. Who decides the colours? Can we not have something that's a bit clearer? Because I actually think that's hard to process the information. Maybe it's just me, but I'm sure that other people must find it difficult as well. The other thing I was following on from Serena, because I was obviously working a couple Monday morning, and there was an an individual there, and he's fine. He came in and he bought 8 bottles of cider, quite strong 8.2% cider, at 11 o'clock in the morning to go out and drink on the street with. And he said he was buying it around for some other people who were all there drinking on the street, and then there were problems in the car in the afternoon. So I really do think that the alcohol ban is absolutely vital. If you don't get that, then this is just going to continue, really.
Is there any merit in seeing if we can get someone from the CPS to come and talk to us as a council in a committee or whatever?
Very interesting, yeah.
Okay, I'll talk to the council and see if we can arrange something.
Sorry,
Yeah, please.
sorry, Your Worship, can I just a couple of points to consider as well. The statistics are reported crime. What is not there is unreported crime. And with regard to the alcohol ban, I don't make any inference with causation or association to the statistics for the alcohol. I don't have the data to support that hypothesis, but I understand what colleagues are saying. I'm not discounting it.
Thank you. Casper. Oh, sorry, I'm saving you till last, Casper.
Very good. Okay, you can carry it. Thank you for it. I'm trying to remember. It's really good on this one, because I know there's condemnation in town, quite specifically targeted at one group or person or whatever. And which reminds me of, other people may remember this, up north somewhere, there was a single person crime rate which exploded. And there's one person where everything went up by a massive percentage, which it would do. You know, and I'm just wondering if that's a sort of thing here, whereby there must be some way that we can understand that. How many crimes did you say increased? 231? Somewhere around there? 100, that's in 3 years.
Yeah. But what's the increase?
40%.
Yeah,
39.84.
So instead of us assuming it's one person, is it one person or is it a lot more?
Not assuming.
Well, this is so we're talking.
Okay. I don't think we have the answers.
But why can't we get to that position where if there is some particular individual or individuals causing problems, or why don't we know?
I'm sure that's what our neighbourhood police team are actually working on.
They are working on that.
They are.
Okay, good. Okay, the other issue is 8 bottles of strip cider at 11 o'clock in the morning. Well, the Abbey shop, the shop across the road, seems to be doing quite well with this 2 bottle limit. That's it. They're quite happy with that. I was in the shop when 2 of them were starting to have a row about it because it was the first day, and it was all right. Saw a lot of chesty stuff and everything, but it's okay, fine. So they accept that. So I think it's similar kind of thing. It's got to be operated up at your venue. You know, same kind of thing.
The police are going to all venues.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so they should. And especially if this person, as you described, was causing problems.
I don't think it's actually necessarily.
Well, anyway, property sales anyway is not good.
Yeah, well. Well, thanks.
You've
That's not, I don't really come here for criticism from you, thank you. I'd just like to say that I don't really think that it's fair to put the blame onto the people working in the shops, because we're very vulnerable people, and particularly sometimes in the evenings, you've got like several young women working almost entirely alone in a shop. And I don't really think, and I think that if the rule was in place saying that they weren't allowed to drink on the street, then obviously we would have more power to say, well, I can't sell that to you because I know you're just going to drink outside. Yeah. So actually we need the rule in place in order for us to be able to put that into practice, not the other way around. Because we will then just get people really have security in there for very short periods of time in the week. And without that there, we're extremely vulnerable actually.
Thank you. Councillor Murray, I believe you're a customer of the month at Morrison's.
Less said of it, the better, Your Worship. I've settled my bill.
Bless you.
I'm not a criminal. With regard to the county council's after this unfortunate incident, I hope that we all send our sympathies to her and should not put off Glastonbury forever on account of it. But I might have missed it, but were the police called? Is there any prosecutions pending from that?
Your Worship, Councillor Secretary, actually, those words. The police were unable to attend the incident. It was a priority one call, which in their own terminology means that they should be on site within 20 minutes. 8 hours later, they still weren't on site. The individual perpetrator concerned was identified at the time with photographic evidence and provided by burn spread. That was provided to the police, and the individual concerned was picked up the following day. She has been remanded in secure accommodation under the Mental Health Act, awaiting assessment. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Councillor Cousins?
Thank you for the right to reply again, Your Worship. I think the most important thing out of this discussion has been raised many times, is to get the public space protection order back in place in Glastonbury. And I wonder whether there's anything that this council can do to support the county councillor in attempting to move that forward. I also think that we should follow up ourselves with perhaps the inspector to ask whether or not the increase in crimes being reported will result in an increase of resources being delivered to Glastonbury through the police. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cousins. Yes, please.
Short one, Your Worship. The feedback I get of people on the street who seem to think it's my fault that we haven't got PSPO reinstated, it breeds very unhealthy rumours, one of which is that the people, particularly the one person who's been identified obscurely, not by name, who may be the catalyst for so much of this antisocial behaviour at the moment, the belief that the police are protecting him because he is a snitch for them is something, I know it might be crazy, it's not something that I can believe because I wouldn't trust anything he said, but that is one of the suspicions that is being bred by this very tardy response to their request for the PSPO to be reinstated. And I know what you told me a few weeks ago now was that there wasn't somebody to write the PSPO. Came as a great surprise to me, and maybe all of us. I didn't know it had to be rewritten, and nobody had responded to me earlier. Before you came on the county council, I think. Nobody said, "Oh, we haven't got anybody to write it." And so in my letter to the county council, I said, "Well, I'll write it for you. I write for a living." So if you want just to send me the last PSPO that was in place, and it needs any kind of rewording or emphasis, I'm very happy to submit something.
Thank you, Councillor.
Your Worship, the councillors, not wishing to go through our conversation we had after the last meeting, I did have a conversation with the PSPO officer at Somerset Council only last week. They are meant to have a team of 4. The banding and pay banding that they inherited from South Somerset Council, who owned all of these PSPOs, was known to be on the low side of remuneration, and the banding that has been proposed for the new jobs has meant that nobody's come forward to be employed in those roles. So that's point 1. Point 2, the one person who has been recruited, he has approached Avon Somerset Police because the numbers that he requires in order to get the PSPO put into place, in order for a judge to go, yes, I authorise a PSPO to be applied. At the moment, he hasn't got that granularity of detail. That's not the detail required in order to put that forward. So the actual writing of it itself, it's a given. The statistics and the numbers behind it to give the evidence to the judge, he has not got. He has asked Avon and Somerset Police to give him
the data. We had some meeting with them this week. He's been in the role now for 3 weeks.
Okay. Right, thank you. Right, let's move on.
Can I just quickly say
Oh, yes, please.
I just wanted to follow up with what I said, and I just wanted to make it clear that that's the same on the Monday morning. The individual didn't say anything about who the alcohols are being already paid for. And also, we do have a very strict policy of people who are banned from the co-op. There's a massive list of them, but it's very, very hard to enforce because the pictures are all very blurry and we all have different shifts. And this particular person wasn't on that list anyway. So it's just extremely difficult for us, basically, and I'm sure for everyone in town who sells anything at all, really, especially people selling alcohol. So I just want to underline that the co-op policies are actually quite rigid, but they're actually quite hard to enforce, particularly without security.
Yeah, thanks, Nancy. Right, next item. Sorry.
Just very quickly, thank you, Bishop. I seem to remember, it might have been the last meeting, but we were talking about a bylaw and whether we could actually have an interim piece of bylaw legislation. Was that ever followed up?
No, I think the information I had was that you could, like a council could do a bylaw if there was no other legislation that fitted that topic. So I think that's where it went.
Does that mean interim? Because there isn't a...
I don't know.
Really?
I think the PSPO is in process, Finance Sunset Council, and we should let that on. And hopefully, like, the more people who complain, the sooner it will get there. Okay, moving on to consider and approve the schedule of payments.
Yeah, so it'll be yourself, Worship, and another councillor. Yeah, I'll just put it on there. I don't believe, Your Worship, it was circulated in advance. I don't believe I had any queries. I know I had some budget queries which I've not had a chance to reply to, but I'll take my opportunity during the meeting to reply to those. But I don't think I've had any particular questions on this document, Your Worship.
Councillor
Thank you, Richard. There is a couple of things which I've got. Somerset Council, which is 6540, about the bus to our old marshes. Looks like we paid £6,000. Did we go to Street to find out if they were willing to put some money into it?
So
that was released, and like I say, the whole amount was 6,000, and it looks like the Glastonbury has been nailed for the whole lot.
Councillor
Thank you. So this Councillor Napper is the same thing, but it's different. So this is actually money that came from the LCN project to pay for that bus service for the period that the project was planned to run. The money that the Town Council was asked for at the last meeting was to extend that service after the project was initially planned to end. Yeah. So this payment is completely grant funded at the moment, this £6,000, because it's within the budget for the grant that we are holding for the LCN. I believe that the project team are going to Street Parish Council and I believe Mere Parish Council to ask for contributions toward that extension that Glastonbury Town Council has found some money in next year's budget to provide for. But I believe Street and Mere are both going to be asked that question. But this is for the same service, but it's for while it was already planned, not the extension. So this payment is grant funded, Councillor Napper.
Thank you for that. What's the other one? The other one is 6545, Ecotricity, electricity for St Dennison's house, which I believe, I'm saying, is £2,000. Can you explain that?
If you'd asked me this in advance of the meeting, Councillor Napper, I could have got you an explanation. I would imagine that that is a quarterly charge, or if not, a charge for a longer period of time. But if you leave that with me, the responsible finance officer is back from annual leave later this week. I can get you an answer, but it's very handy if you can provide me these queries in advance of the meeting, so I can have an answer ready for you.
Yesterday, so
right.
That would be difficult.
Okay. They were ready for you well in advance of that, but that's fine.
I asked for it on Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah, Friday.
Your worship was there. I think that is about. Oh no, there is another one. The which number is that? The 6553, Mellish and Saunders, valuation for the St Dunstan's house cost £9,600. Can't believe that a valuation would cost £9,600.
So what that is, Councillor Napper, that is a valuation of works completed. So that is a valuation of an amount of work that has been completed by Mellish and Saunders in that month against the project. That's not the cost of getting a valuation for the building. We've had that done separately. What it is it's termed evaluation because our quantity surveyor goes in, has a look at the work that's been completed and comes up with a valuation that then the contractors are allowed to invoice against.
Sorry, I took that on face value.
That's all right.
The last one, 6602, it looks like we paid £120 for a structural survey on a building that we don't own. Can that be explained?
It can, Councillor Napper, because that relates to the town hall. We do own the town hall.
Oh,
That's for a planning application to put solar panels.
okay. Thank you.
Councillor Dupont.
So I'm just wondering what's happening with the tour defibrillators.
I
It's possibly missing quite a lot of time.
noticed that as well, and I was told before that if they disconnected and or removed or whatever, that we could attend to it.
I was told that it hadn't been.
I don't know the answer to that.
We'll ask the responsible finance officer. I was under the impression we'd managed to stop that, but I believe we might be in a contract with SSE for this, at least a standing charge, and that might be an annual or a partial payment against a standing charge. I don't know because the council entered the contract for that quite a while ago. But the assistant town clerk will note that, and we'll ask the finance officer to send an answer around.
Okay, thank you. Can I accept these as a true record?
Aye.
Thank you. Would you care to sign? Yeah, Councillor Cook.
There was a quick question to follow up on too. Sorry, planning application for the main building.
Yes.
On the road,
Yes.
for solar panels.
Yes.
I thought that was already quite clear what was the result of that. So that we can't do it because there is the building.
Not quite, Councillor Cook. We were requested at the time it was submitted last to withdraw it and provide them more information. So it wasn't refused, and I believe it's being done through the Resilience Committee to put together a planning application for solar panels on the town hall. Many, many, many years ago, the town council put solar panels on the main hall without permission, and it had to move them. The town council is now seeking to do it lawfully.
They'll still go through that process.
Of course.
You're not be able to do it.
There is an application pack very, very close to being submitted through.
So how do you submit it?
I don't think so. I think it's almost there. Finance officer Melissa Davies. Councillor Henderson, then
Just to say that there has been quite a few a change in attitude towards putting solar panels on listed buildings, and we've had quite a few precedents for several years now. And this is why the county council now feels it's a good time to go back with a new application.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, my concern is that who's going to be doing the roof? It should be the solar panel company should be doing it.
Yeah, it won't be us.
It won't be us.
Oh, no.
Thank you. That's all I want to hear.
Councillor
I think it is a great shame that back in 2011 or 12 that we removed the solar panels that were on the roof, because they would have brought in hundreds of thousands of pounds for this community, which could have offset against the increase that we've unfortunately had to put into over the years into the precept. Hundreds of thousands of pounds were lost because we took them off. Now, I'm not saying this council should ignore the law or indeed not comply with the law, but if we had left them on the roof, I suspect that the enforcement officer for Mendip would only be now getting round to coming and seeing us about it. In the same way that the enforcement officer, at the same time as we put the panels on the roof, a mural went up on a building owned by former councillor Bill Knight, God rest his soul. And he had a response to the enforcement request to remove his mural which I think he had something in his pocket for them. And at that point, we can note that the mural is still there. Sadly, our panels are not.
Thank you. Okay. Right, next item on the agenda is the budget monitoring report. It's a lengthy document, which I hope you all managed to read. And there are some.
I'm just, Your Worship, noting Councillor Ronnie Dougal's queries, which I'll go through when I put the document up on the screen. I'm just writing them down. Give me a second, but councillors have had this in advance. Right. I can make the projector unfreeze. There we go.
Yes. That's finished. We're going through the whole lot earlier. Quite a few queries, but I just want to do. Open spaces, income. I'm a bit concerned with the Toby's Field popping up again. It's gone down though to 1,200 the income, but it says donations. It's already announced donations.
My understanding is that the trust agreement says you can't charge for it, like car parking, but people are allowed to make a donation.
Which is why we bought it for the car for 450 spaces.
We're allowed to use it 28
Yeah, so we didn't charge them for it. Because if it's, excuse me, so we've, you've been putting boards out there, because I walked past it a couple of times, Carnival specifically, with the Jubilee float. And saw it there, £5 parking. About 250 cars. But it's now gone, that's gone. It's gone to, it's in the income channel, but it's donations. So what's that about?
Councillor Cousins.
When this council purchased Huddersfield, it was not to make a car park, it was to secure a place for the Charter Fair, the Michaelmas Fair, to continue because it was without a venue. If you recall, Hayley Marsh's land was sold, and for 1 year it was put into St John's car park, which was a bit of a disaster. And so, 2 years. So this council decided that it would try to secure a place in perpetuity for the affair to go, and that is why we purchased the field. Once we purchased the field, we decided that because of the 28-day rule, it might be useful as an overflow for times when the town is full of cars, such as Frost Fair or in the Carnival. And part of our agreement with the family who sold us the land is that we cannot use it for commercial activities, and therefore it's only ever been used for donations in the car parking, and I believe that those donations don't actually come to the council anyway.
No, I think they go to whoever doesn't like to see
exactly. So it might be worth, councillors have questions about this, asking the clerk before saying things like, we bought it for a car park, which is not true.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you did. You made it quite clear that there are 450 car parking spaces there, which you would utilise, and you used that in the town building accelerator, didn't you? So it was in there, it's on the accelerator leaflet. So you did find that from so you can't park. Absolutely. It's
I personally haven't bought any fields or any car parks, but when you refer to you, council, I suspect that you're a member of this council too. So it's we rather than you.
Okay. Any other comments on our budget monitoring report? Councillor Ronnie.
Yes, so I sent an email in and asked various questions, and Connor said that you would respond. Are you happy to do that, Connor?
Yes, I am, Councillor Ronnie Dougal. Sorry I wasn't able to respond in advance of the meeting. I've been in meetings all day today. So you asked a question about the Austin Memorial Homes and the Joint Burial Committee income. The end of the financial year is 31st of March. So the payments owing to the town council from those organisations should come in before the 31st of March. If, for instance, the Joint Burial Committee doesn't at the time have the money to pay its invoice, it will go into the accounts as a debtor and it can be raised as a payment in a future financial year. It depends on, forecasting income for the Joint Burial Committee is very tricky. So it may well be that costs may have outstripped income in the financial year, but eventually the town council does get the money back and it will just go into the accounts as a debtor if that is the case. You asked a question about the tribunal. Why has it not been used for events as we envisaged? And essentially the short answer is that we haven't had the right people in running the place yet. We've got a new person starting, who the panel were, I don't know whether Councillor White or Oakton would like to say anything, are very much looking forward to them starting in the role, and so is the rest of the team, and we hope that will certainly improve. In terms of the costs of the information centre, the reason it costs the town council more money than it makes is essentially to run the service, to pay the people to be in the information centre and providing the service. At the moment, costs more than the information centre makes in terms of income. That's the short answer for that one. It's the cost of people and running the service over what we make at the moment of selling items in the information centre, which hopefully in the future will change again. But it's a service that the town council provides. It's not necessarily there always to make money, but it would be nice if it were to wash its face. You asked a question about Glastonbury and Bloom and why has it cost so much more this year. It hasn't cost the town council more this year. It looks like it has on paper, but it's because we're being more specific with how we account for the costs of different projects. So actually, it has not cost the town council any more. We are being more honest with where costs arise across our budget. So rather than having a general overtime budget sort of sat somewhere over here that gets used, if that overtime is used, for instance, for any project, but take Glastonbury and Bloom because we're talking about it, rather than just the money being used over here, generally no one really has an idea what it's for, it's now being assigned as it should be against individual projects, so the town council and the public have a clearer idea of the costs of what we're doing, but it's not actually costing any more, it's just being honest about where the money's being spent, if that makes sense. Yeah. And then in terms of the costs of the Joint Burial Committee, you noted down quite a large figure, and I didn't actually recognise the figure, so I'm going to try and find it to see if I can answer that question.
Let me try to find it, because I didn't know. Did I write down the numbers for you?
Yeah, you did. I think what you've done is total income less expenditure, and I think where you got that figure from. So actually, although it's termed burial board here in the document, that total income less expenditure it is actually the overall expenditure over income for that entire area of the budget, not just for the Joint Burial Committee. So it's not that the Joint Burial Committee has cost 200 and something thousand pounds to run in a year.
This is general community services.
I believe that is that whole budget area which spans across a number of pages. That whole area of the budget, yes.
Okay.
So you've got. So if you look at the line above that says total burial board, that is actually the overall cost.
Okay.
That 19,500, but that 232 is the overall cost of that entire budget area, which that is a part of. Okay. So that was the answer to that one.
Okay. So thank you for answering my questions. Can I come back to you with just a query come concern?
Yep.
So the GIC, I know we've been through 4 or 5 different managers in 3-4 years. It's been a problem area for us. I can clearly remember Margaret Oakland when she became a councillor saying, we've got a treasure trove here, how come we aren't making lots of money from it?
Yep.
I know as an information centre, it's a service to the public. And so part of what our PSET is paying for is us doing an information service to the public. However, I just have Margaret's words ringing in my ear that potentially it could be a way for the council to make money so that we don't have to raise PSET. Like the car park is a way that we raise money so that we don't have to raise PSET. And I'm just really concerned that however many years on we are, 3 years on, something like that, and we've still got a £70,000 deficit, that we are still paying £70,000 to run the information centre when potentially it could. And I just want to raise my concern because I know that various people are concerned about this.
I completely agree with you.
And how can we actually turn it about? Because we've tried, and we've had this person, that person, the other person, and it hasn't worked. So hopefully now with the new building it will work. But again, it's fingers crossed and hope, and maybe we've got another year with another £70,000.
I'll just take a very quick one from Councillor Knapp because you've had your hand.
And Margaret.
Sorry, do you want to take Councillor Oakley? Because I think Councillor Knapp is going to change the subject.
Okay. Can I just have a few words from Councillor Oakley and then we'll come to you? Because this one is relevant.
Right, in answer, I still believe that we can make a lot more money out of the tribunal. Unfortunately, we have had a series of things that are out of our control. First of all, we're working on funding, and that took a great deal to get it over. Really, because a lot of our authority is left, because they went on to other things. We've had a few managers, and they have not been the right people. We do have the right person in our families. This lady has been in retail a long time and is well known in Glastonbury. I've met with her. She's got tremendous ideas. She's already started to make connections with the Tim Hopkins Board and the Antiquarian Society. They're planning a series of events that hopefully will start this financial year, and move forward. And so I have every confidence that this lady will be the person that we need. It's taken a long time to find her, but I do believe we found her. And I do believe that she will be most effective. At the moment, it has not been effective. And that is because it has to have a proper leader. And there's a lot of people who, have criticised us, but sometimes it takes a long time to get the person that you want. And I do believe that we have done that now. And so I would say, in the words of an American president, watch this space.
Thank you. Councillor Napper.
Thank you, Your Worship. Can you straighten something out for me, please?
Hope so.
St Dunstan's House, 4, 5, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, 9, 10. St Dunstan's House, Godley, St Dunstan's House, Ferrier.
That's the names of the
St
rooms.
Dunstan's House, Beckery.
That's the names of the rooms, named after the seven holy islands. Not that we've gone to those villages.
Right, that's straight down. Thank you. And I thought, we've got property all over Somerset. The other thing is, what was put on the internet, Glastonbury Town Council Summary Income and Expenditure account. It says appropriations from 8,400 last year to 27,400. What is appropriations, please?
So an appropriation, Councillor Napper, is when, well, you can do them in two different directions. An appropriation into a fund is moving money which is generally an underspend in one financial year. You appropriate it into a fund to use it in the next financial year. So, because otherwise, the way that town councils account is that any underspend just goes straight into general reserve. It doesn't disappear, it just goes straight into general reserve and we start a new year. But the way to essentially save money for a purpose for a future year is to appropriate it into a fund. You can do it in the opposite direction. You can have a fund and you can appropriate it out of the fund. So you can have money, for instance, from last financial year, sat in a fund, an earmarked fund for a certain purpose, and then in the year that you're currently in, you can appropriate it out of that fund into this year's budget to spend. So you can do an appropriation in two ways. I'm not sure which direction you're referring to into whatever was posted online, but you can do an appropriation in either direction. It's putting money away for a future year or using money from a past year in the current year. That's what appropriation is.
Okay, thank you. And when we use it, that will be indicated, will it?
Yes. So in the accounts, or in the, let me see if I can find one. You can see here. So this is appropriations from the Resilience Fund. Okay. So we've got a fund for the Resilience Committee, and when we appropriate out of that fund, so we've got our revenue budget, which is this document, and our funds. They sit separately. When you appropriate out of a fund, you show it as income in your revenue budget, and this £954.50p is an appropriation from money from a previous year into the current year to do something with it. Now that fund is under the umbrella of the Resilience Committee. I don't know what they moved money from a previous year into this year to do, but yes, it's shown in these accounts. Anytime you see the word appropriation, it will either be from Resilience Fund, which means you're bringing money into the budget from an earmarked fund from last year, or you probably will see it toward the end of the financial year or in our year-end accounts, appropriation to a fund, which is going. So if I take, for example, we have a budget line for decarbonisation of this building. That budget line probably won't be fully spent this year, so you have an appropriation from this year's revenue budget into the fund to spend it in a future year. It's a way to protect money for certain purposes rather than it just going to general reserve.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Okay. Can I accept these as a... Or do we just need to receive them?
It's just for noting, Your Worship, so I will suffice.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, an update on asset and service devolution.
Very short, Your Worship, still waiting on Somerset Council's legal team.
Thank you. Update on St Vincent's House, Wellbeing Centre.
Again, quite short, Your Worship. It is starting to now get busier with activities and sessions happening, and I also continue to chase on contractors to sort out our last remaining snags and defects. And I know that our project management team have got a meeting on Friday to go through the status of some of those.
Thank you very much indeed. To consider the UK Government Town of Culture competition. Now, has somebody got some information about that? I wasn't on that committee or working group.
Well, Your Worship, if no councillor wants to speak up, I shall. So the Department for Culture, Media and Sport have a competition for the UK's City of Culture, which most people may have heard of. They've decided to establish a competition as well for a Town of Culture. So this was sent to me by many different individuals, and councillors decided to form an informal working group to consider potentially progressing with an entry into the UK Town of competition. It's not necessarily, it's not something I'm saying the council should or should not do. It's established a working group, and I believe has met on 2 occasions, initially to scope out what the competition means, what the town council might have to do in putting together a bid with various partner organisations if it wanted to enter. And then it had a second meeting to discuss the detail of the expression of interest stage. So the way that the competition is working, there is an expression of interest stage where any town who is interested puts in an expression that they are interested. They are sifted by the Department for Culture, Media and Sport. Those who are taken essentially as a shortlist then get a revenue grant of £60,000 to put together a bid for, in the year 2028, a year of cultural programmes relevant to that place. There is then, there are 2 runners-up and a winner. The 2 runners-up, 2 towns that are selected as runners-up, will get £250,000 to put together parts of their cultural programme and to leave a legacy. And the winning town will get a prize of £3 million to put together their cultural programme and to leave a legacy from the competition. So that's the details of the competition, Your Worship. I don't know whether there may be, I'm hoping there are some councillors around the table who've been in those working group meetings to give you a bit more detail on their thoughts. And what we're looking for is, before the town council progresses any more, is a decision whether the town council should spend time and effort looking to put together an expression of interest, which will have to be done by the 31st of March, or whether it might not want to. So that's what's on the table, Your Worship.
Thanks, Councillor Atkins.
Well, I'm part of the working party that looked at this new kind of culture. Frankly speaking, personally, I can't think of any other town that has more culture than Glastonbury. I think we've got enormous potential. I think we've got enormous history. I think we stand a very good chance of getting on the action list. It is not going to cost the taxpayer a penny. It is not going to cost any of us a penny. It's money all comes directly from government. And we have looked at various people who might be interested, the stakeholders, some of whom have already indicated that they have got an interest in taking part in it. One of them is the Abbey. We're also extending our invitations to local people, to local organisations, to schools, to colleges. Anybody that has taken part in an interest of any form of culture, because culture means different things to different people, is being invited to contribute, and we will then see how feasible it is. This is an enormous opportunity for Glastonbury. I think that, if you look at the importance of the cities of culture, and we are Glastonbury, we can do this. We have got more culture here than I think anybody else. In fact, on one of their frontispieces for advertising this event is our very own tour. So, what an iconic place we live in. So, at the moment we're looking at it, we'll take advice from the people who want to be part of it, and then we'll produce a report for the council to make a final decision. That is where we've got so far.
Thank you. Councillor Nathan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I can't think of any reason, apart from time from the clerk, that's why we shouldn't take part in this. Thank you.
So I was very interested to see when the newspapers across the country were doing articles about this brand new town culture competition, how many of them featured Glastonbury in photos, etc. It was extraordinary. It did prompt me to consider that when I think about places in this wonderful country of ours, that have culture similar to Glastonbury. There are many places that have culture and do wonderful things. They are all cities. And so, Glastonbury does punch above its weight around the types of things that we do here. And if you just use the wheel of the year as a kind of basis for the amazing things that go on. Not only, though, is it full of these wonderful things, but our culture is very indigenous, if I want a better term. It kind of reflects something about the country itself as well. And that's just sort of the culture as in the things that people do. And then when you think about adding to that the things that make a national identity, there are many things about Glastonbury that contribute to that, including St Dunstan and all of the amazing things that have come out of that. Or if you think about Glastonbury's position in the Christian aspect of this country, when you think about Glastonbury's position within some of the older aspects of country as well, when groups like OBOD are meeting here, etc. This place has all of that to offer. And then when you think about things to do with culture in relation to what a nation thinks of itself through the media, well, there's a little festival down the road that bears our name there. It's certainly a cultural event. And that's before I get around to thinking about films like Excalibur or many of the wonderful things related to all of that aspect of the place. So, to my mind, they should even have a competition and just give it.
So are you proposing that we ought to submit an expression of interest?
No, I was just reflecting upon it.
Do we need a proposal?
I think it might be useful.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Matt seconded it. All those in favour of doing the expression of interest? I believe that's unanimous. Thank you very much.
No,
Oh no,
abstaining.
one abstention. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Well done. Thank you very much. Next item is change to standing orders.
Thank you, Worship. I had some queries from councillors about a potential change to standing orders, so I've drafted the change that was requested, and it's up to the council whether it wants to adopt it. So this was in the folder in advance of the meeting. You'll be pleased to know that it's a very lengthy document. There is only one change that's being suggested, and I've been very helpful for you, and I've highlighted it, I believe. Hey, Standing Order 3S in relation to voting at meetings. So it was requested, so the Town Council can cast vote by secret ballot when it's voting to put members, or co-opt members to the council, or put members onto committees. It didn't particularly give provision for a written ballot as a valid form of voting for a general decision. So it was requested that I draft an amendment with some quite specific wording. So I've drafted it, and it's up to the council if you would like to adopt a revised set of standing orders, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor John.
Thank you. Sorry, comment. Does this mean like a blind ballot? Written ballot is a blind?
So how it would function? There would be voting slips that are named, and councillors would have a voting slip each with their name on it, with 4 against abstain, and it's a way of voting without necessarily raising your hand.
Councillor Cousins?
Just out of interest, where would the... I've never felt intimidated or harassed in casting a vote on this council, I'm pleased to say. I do remember back in 2011 when I was first on council, there was a motion that I put forward that I felt was greatly beneficial to the council. And I was amazed that a certain party, who remain nameless, the Conservatives, voted against it en masse. And at the end of the council meeting, I was even more surprised when several of the councillors who voted against it came and apologised to me for doing so. So I wonder, what is the intimidation and harassment that we're referring to here? And I would just be interested to know, because really we should not be voting along party lines. We should be voting here as a collective. If we try and vote for what everyone feels is best for the town and people.
Thank you. I was just wondering, I'm still reflecting on it. I'm just wondering whether the actual recorded vote would still apply with the ballot. So therefore, would it be recorded thereafter in the minutes who voted for, who voted against, or abstained, or not? Or are they two inclusive or exclusive?
If a recorded vote was requested, whether it were done by written ballot or raising of hands, it would be recorded in the minutes as a recorded vote. So it doesn't affect a recorded vote. It would just change the method by which you would do it.
In the chamber?
Yes.
Therefore, I see no instance where council would feel either harassed or intimidated in the chamber.
I have only been asked to draft it with this wording. I have done that. It's up to yourselves.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask, how do we identify the credible threat? This sounds sort of like quite a nebulous thing. What would be identified the credible threat? Because obviously we're saying we're only going to move to this if there is a credible threat. So what does that entail? I don't understand what this threat would be. And the other thing I'm concerned about is where it says it's a named voting slip. If somebody believes that there's possible intimidation or harassment and the voting slip's a name, and then whoever voted for whatever is only going to be revealed afterwards anyway, then could that not then afterwards then lead to this intimidation and harassment part of the effect? So I'm not entirely sure what it's going to achieve, is what I'm basically saying. I mean, I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad idea, I just don't know if we need it.
So it doesn't necessarily, Councillor King, mean that it would be a recorded vote. They are two separate things.
Right.
But as I said, I've been approached, asked to draft this. I don't have much more.
Need to be named is really what I'm saying. I mean, surely we could just have it. I mean, they could just be counted. I think that would be better than having.
It would be so that I, as the proper officer, could have assurance that the people who are in the room actually voted.
Right, I see.
Thank you, Richard. If the councillor opposite to me was referring to me, which he normally does as a Conservative, I would like to tell him now that I am independent. Thank you, sir.
It was well before you were on this council.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure there's a need for this, but I would assume that a credible threat would be perceived by the person that called for the vote to be a written vote. So although the majority around the table might not perceive a threat, somebody might have been intimidated and say, I know, Connor, I really want this to be a written vote, whatever it's called. So I guess that's how it would be brought into being.
Yes, so I've been thinking about this since people have been talking, and I've been aware that just recently there's been a topic that the council has been exploring, which has caused what one might call upset amongst a certain section of town, who have been very abusive on social media, who have been harassing the town clerk and the officers working for us, who have been harassing some of the councillors via email, and I know that it has been very upsetting for some of the councillors what has been happening for them. Now, it could be that if we vote for something and it then raises this sort of furore amongst certain sections of the people in town, that maybe that would be a time when one would want to keep one's name private in terms of what one is voting for. So I can actually see a use for this. I mean, I had never thought about it, but whilst I don't think that the topic that's causing such a problem at the moment is of major threat to anybody other than emotional via harassment via emails or social media or something. I'm aware that what's going on in the world is hotting up, literally, with climate change and people's fear and flooding and all that's going on. And I can see that this is going to get worse. You know, climate change isn't going away now. We've passed the point of no return. All the triggers have been triggered and were set for something pretty dire. And that's going to mean there's climate refugees. Anybody living below the 13-foot mark is going to find that their houses become useless. Well, you know, it's going to get really difficult. And we are, not we, because we've got an election coming up soon, but future councillors might find that they're having to make very difficult decisions, and people, rather than just being angry on social media or harassing via email, might be getting physically angry. So that I'm just looking into the future, I'm just projecting. It's an ifs and maybes and ifs and ands and all the rest of it. But potentially there's a reason for this.
Thank you. Councillor
Thank you. May I just say that I'm immensely relieved to hear from Councillor Napper that he's independent, because some rumours have circulated that you were going to join another party, new party, and none of us were ready for the sight of you in Lederhosen.
That's a bit close to the park, Get against your cousins.
In standing orders, isn't there a standing order that allows us to vote by secret ballots?
Yeah, it's in particular relation to nominating people to committees and co-opting people to the council. It didn't particularly allow for that to be a general method of voting.
So my slight nervousness about this is that on first reading it, first of all, it seems to be coming from a place of fear, which I don't think we should do. I mean, it's very difficult. As World Heritage has been bandied about, even this council hasn't actually decided to do anything about it yet. I have been verbally abused in the streets around it, and I know that other councillors have felt intimidated about that. But that isn't something about me as a councillor, that's something about the people of this town feeling in a certain way. And I'm disappointed because I would hope that this town isn't a place where people resort to that sort of behaviour, but apparently it is that sort of place these days. But there we are, I can't do much about that. My worry about this is, how does it fit into the Nolan principles about being transparent, etc.? It looks a bit odd in respect to that, and it looks like a place of fear, and it looks like almost attempting to hide what we feel and say and do. So my thought was, perhaps we could think about how we come to this in a different way, rather than from a place of fear, and perhaps go back to the drawing board and think about what it is that we're actually concerned about. The issue is, whenever we vote, whatever the vote is, whether it's a majority vote, a unanimous vote, a vote that's been made by the mayor of the day because it's been stuck 8-8. Once we pass a resolution as a council, it's our duty as a council to get behind it, regardless of how we personally felt about it. If we start thinking about how we personally feel about stuff while we're doing the work of this council, we haven't actually understood what we're doing here. We have to be doing the work of a council. We make a resolution, that resolution is then a corporate resolution of all of us. I can't stand the planters. I've put many motions forward to get rid of them, to take the trees out and plant somewhere else. Even when resolutions are passed to that effect, and they're still very well here. But what I had to accept at the time they were put in place is this council resolved to put them there, and then we all take on the chin. We're all responsible for what happens in this council. If we don't like that, we shouldn't be standing for election.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Let me just straighten this out. I am voting independent because when I did come away from the Conservatives because I wasn't too happy with what they were doing, I went to Reform. Having said that, I didn't like the way that they acted in the local elections, because as far as I'm concerned, a local election is for local people, and Reform wanted to parachute a guy in from heaven knows where, which I don't agree with, especially with the advent of the of Mendip guy. We need to keep our parish local, and that was not keeping our parish local. And I think I was pretty vocal in that. Having said that, Councillor Mudd, I've been working with leather for most of my life. I know it changes sometimes. I change sometimes.
Thank you. I'd like to go back to the agenda item in question. And I'd also like to concur with Councillor Busby's opinion that it should go back to the drawing board and reconsider this. Because I think it's very important when we come to changing some laws. And if it's necessary, we should get it right.
Okay, thank you for that. So, one other thing we might like to consider, and that was, so related to standing orders, was whether this council should take a recess in August and December. So some other councils do, and Street in particular, they have August off.
This council used to.
Yeah. So all I'm wondering is whether councils feel that might be a good idea.
I personally do.
Yeah.
Strictly.
It just felt like a very good idea. Councillor Cousins.
So when I stood for election for the St Edmunds Ward seat, there were many other people who did not get elected, who stood in that ward. And I always think every time something comes up that's difficult or demands something from me, is that I got voted in by the people of the town to do something on this council. Others didn't. And if I then start going, oh, I don't like the fact that we meet on Thursday, whatever it is, why am I here? Why did I put myself forward for election? We meet regularly, don't we? It's only once a month. It's not like it's a huge burden to discuss important things for the town. They are important. The fact that so many people passionately turn up and are in the public gallery shows how important they are. Believe me, I've been to many parish council meetings where there's one man and his dog, and they wanted in because they thought it was a bingo night. So, we are here in Glastonbury. It's the most important place, I think, in the entire universe.
The most important town in culture.
Well, maybe, but what I'm trying to say is that it's not onerous. If we can't make a meeting, we don't turn up. If we all decided not to turn up in August, we wouldn't be quorum. But I think to start saying, oh, we'll take August off and December off, I think that's a slippery slope to not being the greatest council in the world, but to being an also-ran council. And I think the Glastonbury deserves better than an also-ran council.
Thank you, Chair. I agree to a certain extent, John, but I think maybe there are elections a year from May. Maybe it's something that the council at that time may want to think about.
So you do have to consider the planning committee every month. You're obliged to do that, so you can take everybody.
You can still do committees.
Yes. Oh, I think. Yeah.
Sorry, thank you. That was my question. Actually, did that include committees?
The committee is pretty much going to decide their next meeting. Councillor Cook?
Yeah, I agree 100% with John there. We don't have to do too much here. But a lot of people do decide to do that. But I think having just that gap of 1 month, people will be asking questions. Well, hang on, why? It's not difficult for us. What is it? It's time tonight. 8:30. We'll be finished by 9 again. It's not really much out of that week, is it? And I think it would be really remiss of us to miss a whole month. Yeah. 2 months. It would be really, especially with the loads of work that we can get. With trying to say that it does actually cut the time you plan. But no, I'm flatly against them.
Okay.
Intimidating.
Okay. So we don't need to take it any further, I guess, do we?
Well, this might be just a mention that Prune Town Council have approved for its councillors to receive an annual allowance of 1,500 to support them in their roles. This was on 5th of February 2023. Now, I've voted against this, but we are getting more and more responsibility. So I'm just highlighting what's been approved.
Thank you. Anything else? No. Okay. Next item is to appoint. Sorry.
Oh. Yes, Mike suggests that should be limited. So, about the Prune Town Council.
Yeah,
Thank you. Where are we? To appoint Glastonbury Town Council's internal auditor for 2026-27. So this is the upcoming financial year. There is a letter of engagement here that hopefully you saw.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the responsible finance officer and I have gone through an exercise to seek quotations for internal audit. It's something we have to have done each year, and it's something that it's recommended that every handful of years, 3 to 5, you change the firm or the individual who's suitably qualified who comes in and does your internal audit. So the responsible finance officer and I sought recommendations from councils of similar sizes. We've done a bit of a procurement exercise, and we are recommending that the council appoints Paul Russell from PTAS. I believe that's Parish and Town Audit Services, unless I'm incorrect. as our internal auditor for 2026-27. The individual is independent of the council and has obviously provided us with their nationally agreed work programme for them to go through in terms of auditing us. I can try and answer any questions in the absence of the responsible finance officer, but our recommendation is that based on the fact that the individual is suitably qualified, was the best value for taxpayer money, and is independent of the council, that we appoint that internal auditor for the job coming up 2026-27.
Oh, Councillor Donovan.
I propose that we go with Connor's recommendation and appoint for the PTAS as our
Harrison.
I second that, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Move to vote.
All those in favour? Again, unanimous. Thank you for that. Do you want me to sign this page?
No, it's fine, thank you, Your Worship. I believe we might ask you to come in if you are required to sign it later, because you'll notice that we haven't had the name of the council put at the top, so it's fine for the moment. When our responsible finance officer is back, if you need to sign it as opposed to myself or the responsible finance officer, Your Worship, we'll get in touch with him.
Thank you very much. Okay, well done for that, thank you. Resolutions of delegated committees. I've got some things to say for the resilience one that we had last week.
Oh.
Thank you. So we had a resilience committee. We agreed several things after quite a deep dive. One of them concerned the town hall heating, and we said we would go with the bivalent system with the gas backup, look at heat pumps, and it was suggested that we met with Dallas, who's been project manager next door. So I saw them both today, just purely by chance, and the town clerk joined us a little later. Spoke through what the sort of options were. Town clerk already had a meeting booked with them on site for next Tuesday. So that just sort of filled in that bit. And Melissa, the client officer, will also join me there. Did talk about the green gas. So at the moment, we're getting our gas supply from electricity. They say that it's 20% that they produce themselves and the rest they buy in off the market. There's another company, and maybe more than one, that guarantee 100% green gas. So one of the options would be that we decide we would like to go with this new company, and maybe there'll be others we can put out for that. But I asked the town clerk if we would be liable to a penalty fee if we sort of broke the contract from the gas company.
So we went with Ecotricity for the electric supply because they're one of two at the time.
Absolutely.
So if we were going to go for green gas, whatever that is, if we're going to go for that, the company that we go with, if we're moving our whole operation across, would need to be registered in the same way that EDF was with the international agreement. Otherwise, we would lose the 100% reduction on our electricity. So I'm just slightly concerned about that.
We're not. So the way I look at it is our electricity supply with electricity is zero carbon. Yeah. So it's most of the wind power. If we then did something similar with the gas.
So you're separating that?
Yes.
I see.
And so the gas would then also be carbon neutral, and all that would leave our sort of carbon footprint as the town council is some vehicles like the tractor. One of our vehicles is already electric. and some minor sort of petrol or diesel driven machinery, pipe plants and things like that. So actually we would get almost to sort of zero or bring down fast.
Well, thank you very much, Your Worship. I was just nervous that you were talking about moving.
No.
Wait, so,
No.
I think that's all well and good. When we first decided to go with electricity because of this zero emission, zero carbon situation with electricity, we did quite a lot of research into the registration, which was through a European scheme, and there are quite a huge amount of hurdles that they need to jump through to be able to register that. My nervousness is that the green gas might be more of a greenwash, but we can see about that.
One thing I did notice, the gas works up at on Rolls Road, right at the top there. So those new pipelines, future-proof to carry hydrogen and biomethane. So they're already looking to put that into the gas grid. So I think we're going in the right direction. Councillor.
Yes, I'm very aware that part of our plan for 2025 to try to aim for net zero was also for us to reduce our energy use. I think it's great with electricity and that it's all coming from wind as far as electricity. And if this other company that is 100% green gas is for real and they're as honourable as Ecotricity are, where Ecotricity, their profits go back to making more stuff, then I'm fine with that. But I also want us not to feel, oh, we've gone and done it. I actually want us to reduce our energy use, because that is important for the planet, that everybody aims to reduce their energy use. And I don't want us to stop the programme of the retrofitting, the double glazing, and all of the rest that we agreed to. I think that it's important that we actually keep the push for that. And don't just sit on our laurels that we've got green electricity.
Okay, good. Councillor.
While we're on this, talking asset committee.
I'm still going on resilience.
Oh, you're still on resilience, right?
Okay. So the last bit of the resilience was about getting some handheld radios. So we did have some issues at Crossfair, but the Crossfair snagging committee, we said, okay, well, we need better radios or more. There was a conversation at Crossfair about, maybe we should just hire some radios in for the day. So anyway, resilience, thinking about our emergency plan, we said, we need radios. So we decided to shop around for some, and a company in London sent us some samples that we could try for a couple of weeks before we decided to buy them up. So the resilience committee said we were happy to pay half the cost, and that hopefully Crossfair would also pay half towards some radios. So really we need communication because we
Your Worship, of those two recommendations or outcomes from the Resilience Committee, do you need us to vote on it?
I think it would be useful.
I don't think so, Your Worship. I think the Resilience Committee need to do a bit more work into looking into changing gas supplier potentially if it thinks it's a good idea and bring it back to the council. And if the Resilience Committee would like to spend some of its budget on radios, it's within your terms of reference. There you go. So the council tonight doesn't have to make any decisions based on that.
Okay, thank you. Is that okay? Okay, Councillor Cook, back to you.
It was proposed by Councillor White for the town clerk to reply to the Abbey confirming that Glastonbury Town Council will not be taking on the proposed lease This was seconded by Councillor Smiley, resolved unanimously. So what property was this? Was this the Abbey?
No, Councillor Cook.
No.
This was a set of heads of terms for a lease at Abbey Park.
It was.
So the committee decided it did not want to progress with the set of heads of terms for a potential lease at Abbey Park, and has instead proposed that we enter into a maintenance agreement like we are currently in with Somerset Council for managing the open spaces that we as yet don't own because we're waiting for Somerset Council's legal department. So the committee has proposed that back to the Abbey and its trustees, and we're awaiting an answer.
Right. Okay, so is there a possibility we still might end up with a lease?
No.
No.
I don't think so, Councillor Cook, unless the Abbey trustees change the terms with which they would like us to take a lease on.
Yeah, which they'll be considering covenants, I imagine.
It was more in terms of some of the costs over tree work, for example, Councillor Cook. The committee didn't consider it value for taxpayer money to take on a lease with quite significant costs for trees that wouldn't be on land that we owned. It would still be owned by Glastonbury Abbey. So that was the thinking behind the maintenance agreement, where the town council would commit to keeping the grass cut and to maintain the play equipment, but also to develop the play equipment and improve it in the future, but without going to the expense for the precept payer of looking after trees on land that we don't own. Right. And we never would own because it's an unalienable, or something along those lines, part of the charity.
Right, the play equipment at the moment is our responsibility.
Yes, it is, the maintenance of it, Councillor Cook, yes.
So what happens when that, I mean, it's all in the green light at the moment, green traffic light situation, so what happens when it goes to the general road?
Well,
we have to maintain it or replace it, Councillor Cook. We have to maintain or replace it, Councillor Cook. That's something that the
Services Committee.
Well, it has to be. So when a bit of play equipment needs work doing to it, you have three choices. You can essentially fix it, you can remove it, or you can replace it. One of those three has to be done. You can't leave a dangerous piece of play equipment, and this town council agreed quite a while ago to take on the responsibility for the play equipment.
Exactly what meant if they had a chance to get all of that.
Well, hopefully
this will go out.
Hopefully we've already gone beyond that point because we've discussed the play equipment and we've set budgets towards replacing the individual.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Councillor Cook, for concern over these details of this council. And as Chair of Property and Assets, I think it would be an asset, to repeat the word, if you were to join our committee. That'd be a really good thing. And then this confusion and sometimes misinformation would cease.
Councillor
I was just looking at items 3 and 4 on the Property and Assets Committee meeting. Item 3, I think that it would be worth, would it not, pointing out that the cottage in question is unfit for human habitation at this moment in time. And I think that that's quite important for us to stress. And as far as item 4 is concerned, do we as a council need to do anything in this meeting to make this recommendation to appoint Councillor Ewan Cameron to join the Town Deal Board? I personally feel, even though I have to declare that I am a member of the Town Board, I feel that having Glastonbury's, how do I put it? Glastonbury's county most attentive Glastonbury County Councillor, the one who actually turns up and appears to be quite dedicated to the town, should be on that Town Deal board during the last year of that, to make sure that Glastonbury's community are represented there when reflecting on some of the issues that have arisen around the red brick building, etc., in relation to the scrutiny that Somerset Authority should have done on the payments that were made before making those payments. And I think that they really need to take that into account whenever they're thinking about who to throw under the bus in relation to red brick building. They need to stand up and say, we made the mistakes and we are responsible, instead of trying to destroy a community asset that hundreds of people in this town have invested a lot of money into. They should be looking at how to preserve that great utility for the community there. But in light of these sorts of things, I think that having somebody to stand up to Somerset on our behalf, on the town deal board, would be a very useful thing. Should council, you and Cameron be wishing to accept it, this table self-destruct.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
I would therefore propose, if you were willing to do so, that our county council, present here, is elected to the town deal board, or at least
we suggested it should be, because it's the town deal board, you have to do it.
of course. Yeah. So can I propose that with your permission?
Your Worship, Councillor, thank you very much. Can I just do a point of order first? There is no apparentness of my dedication to the town. 1 minute. I am dedicated. I'm greatly humbled by that resolution. I was unaware that it was. I'd just like to convey, however, to colleagues that one of the things I've said to everyone in the community, to the tenants in the Red Brick Building and other members of the public, is that my only aspiration is to be a conduit between our residents and whatever formal structures they seem to be struggling with. And I've had some success with that by being able to speak to, for example, the Chief Executive of Somerset Council and convey some of the very important businesses and people and love that sits within the town deal projects. And if that's the sort of role that friends and colleagues wish for me to get involved in, then I'd be delighted to accept any sort of invitation.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Smith? And then Councillor Green.
Yeah, with all due respect, that's a very noble statement, a set of statements. But I've also had it from word of mouth on various members of the town deal board that they've really welcomed me to sit on it and just to do as you actually suggested, you'll be better informed and be in a direct line, conduits, you say, to all of those officers and councillors at Somerset that need to liaise with the town deal board. They'll really welcome your participation on that board. Obviously, you have to go through the election process, but that's my understanding.
Thank you. Councillor
Please strike apparent from the record.
Thank you.
And I must say that I have to declare that I am a shareholder with the Red Brick Building, which doesn't mean that I've ever made any money out of it.
Thank you. Do we need to vote on this?
Yes, please, Your Worship. So Councillor Smythe has proposed it. We're looking for a seconder and then a vote, please.
Councillor Rennie will second it, and all those in favour? Okay. Who's just gone outside? Councillor Much has gone outside, but otherwise we're unanimous. Thank you. I'll write to Jane or someone and get it put on
Thank
the
you.
agenda.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and the next one. Updates on advisory committees and consider any recommendations for this evening.
Your Worship.
Before
we get too far, and we can go back up to the neighbourhood plan. This is quite a momentous moment in the long life of the neighbourhood plan. It has been submitted for screening to Somerset Council, which means that we are now really within light coming down the end of the tunnel for this very long journey. And I think that it should be noted in our minutes for tonight that this is quite a prestigious moment, and that this council is indebted to Planet, who are our consultants, who have done a tremendous job at reviving the plan after the halt that we had due to COVID and all of the things that relate to that. And I think that we should thank them formally as a council, Planet consultants, for all the incredible work that they've done get us to this stage.
Yeah.
So there aren't any recommendations, Your Worship. You've already taken the council through what you discussed at the Resilience Committee. This has sort of inadvertently ended up on the wrong report. It should have been on the last one, it shouldn't have been on this one, but you've already gone through that, Your Worship. So nothing further for you guys to consider. Oh, hang on. No, that's for property and assets, Your Worship.
Right. Unitary Councillor reports. We've had a thorough report from Somerset Councillor Campbell. Thank you very much indeed. Do we have anything from Councillor Hart?
Councillor Hart has sent me a text message and asked me to distribute it to councillors. So when I work out how to get it off of my phone and email it to you, I'll do it after the meeting, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Martin?
Thank you, Your Worship. Apart from the Phantom County Councillor, which we have, I've got a few notes here, and what I am a little bit concerned about is what was on the news today, there are two counties which are about to close 8 fire stations. Now, this was proposed when I was on county council. I think it's Wiltshire and Dorset, I believe. But when I was on county council, I was on the Somerset and Devon one. And there was a consensus of opinion to combine Street and Glastonbury, which none of the firefighters or firemen and firewomen were for. So I think that what we need to do is just make a note of that when it does come to pass, we can possibly counteract it. The other thing is Hinkley Point C. Now I was on the IFCA charade there, and I know that they have now put on the fish resilience and conservation with the noise sounding system, which on the intake pipes, which they didn't want to do when I was on it, but it would only result in an awful amount of fish being killed, which is not good practice. The other thing which I note is that Somerset is on about pelicans again, to spend some money on bringing pelicans to the county. We did a little while ago get storks in the county, which cost about £1.5 million. Now, I think that we could spend that on the roads possibly, and hopefully do something with that. And I don't understand why Somerset is saying that with public scrutiny, 62% of the people that were spoken to said they agree with the price increase of the precept. Now, 62% are saying that we've got the precept up a notch. I just don't agree. I don't think that they did a proper survey on that. And the roads, going back to the roads, I believe that we are at 12th of 158 counties which I just better believe that there are other counties which are worse off than us, because our roads are absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes, so first of all, thank you, Ewan, very much indeed for an excellent report.
Absolutely.
Also, thank you for helping to clear the abandoned caravans on Megapark Road and the rubbish that was then left behind. With regard to the caravans, if you are going to join the town guild board, please could you find out what's happening with regard to the enabling project? The enabling project was called the enabling project and was supposed to happen in order to enable the rest of the town funds to happen by helping us to have a site for the van dwellers. non-bricks and mortar people. And Somerset Council bought a plot of land for it, and nothing, as far as I know, has actually been done other than moving off the travellers who were spotting on it.
That's not strictly true.
Not
They're doing planning and testing.
Okay, they're going for planning, but maybe you could actually help to push it forward, because there's only 1 year left in order for it to be made into a site.
I was under the understanding.
And it would be really helpful if that was pushed forward. The other thing I'd like to bring to your notice and ask about, it was a discussion that came up with regard to the bus shelters, which was agreed, and you will have seen with property and assets, that we would fund the bus shelters. We've got codes for them. These are the ones by West Mendic Hospital, and there's 2 new estates down there, and it's a long way out of town, and lots of residents do use the buses and wait at those bus stops, do need the shelters. We've got the 3 quotes for them. Connor tells me that Scarlett is in process to see what permissions are needed. But he also mentioned that Somerset Council have got a bus programme that maybe could help with some of the funding for the shelters. And I was wondering if you could look into that, because if we could fund it from Somerset, it would save it being funded from Glastonbury. Okay? Thumbs up. Really good. Thank you.
Your Worship, councillors, if you forgive me, I won't go through the top 4 points, always including proposals, but I'll ask questions. With regard to roads, yeah, absolutely, yes, as councillors see, I do put on the report the potholes that have been filled, and I have asked Councillor Richard Watkins, who's the portfolio holder, to give us more information, because what I get back from the residents is there are far too many potholes. There's no point filling in potholes because they just turn into potholes again, and indeed the quality of the workmanship may not be up to scratch. So dealing with all those questions, one, there is a requirement for Somerset Council to keep the highway moving. So if you wait for the whole of your roads to be relaid, that could take years, in which case you've got trenches instead of potholes, and I'm certain nobody wants that. So that's why the pothole system and repair patching system happens. There is a standard, a highways recovery standard. I've been really sad and had to beat it. That's out there that all providers of the service have to adhere to. Where workmanship is substandard, and you see the pothole reappearing quickly, I think as we saw just up at the top of the road where it narrows, they'll just report it again, they then get out the team to replace it again, and they look at the workmanship. So the process does work, and equally I'm just as sad in that whenever I come across a pothole, you now will see me pulling over, taking photographs, doing what 3 words, and reporting it myself. So another indication of my dedication. With regards to Leadbottom, thank you very much. But please, councillors will see in my report a small section on our non-bricks and mortar community, and I would just like to re-emphasise the point we've made by members of the public, that the community can't just be labelled as a single entity. The community is as complex and wonderful and beautiful as our bricks and mortar community. And guess what? They are our community. We are all one. So I know that I am providing information and data, as in the expansion and growth of the bricks and mortar community. Please do not misconstrue that with any personal malice. This is just gathering information so that the council and subcommittees in due course can consider the data and then engage with the community on steps and ways forward. With regard to the enabling project, Julia Holdenby is the legal officer at Somerset Council. I have requested for a meeting with her in the next few days. Councillor Liz Lation has very much been engaged with legal officers at Somerset Council on the enabling project, or as a cold yard as we refer to it. That's in place. And my understanding is that those legal proceedings should be with us very shortly, which is why I've asked for that phone call with Julia. And then with regards to bus shelters, we've got two possible avenues. We've got the Section 106 funding line that Connor and I have tried to engage with Sunset Council. So that they've considered, as a mass under planning Section 106 fundings. And the 800k that you referred to, which Trainline colleagues are trying to also tap into, is an increase of the overall bus budget, which is now, I believe, at 4.2 million. Please don't quote me, I might be 100,000 out there. That has been awarded to Somerset, which is the total amount. That includes the increase of 800,000. Again, Councillor Richard Watkins is in charge of that budget, and he has received proposals from across the county for the reallocation of that additional 800,000. I do not know whether bus shelters are included as classification criteria for that access to that budget, but I can find out.
Okay, Councillor Cousins.
Thank you for that. I was wondering, with the reoccurring potholes, is it part of highways and part of the internal workers of Somerset Unitary Authority that fill the potholes up, or does it go out to tender and independent companies, private companies tender for filling up the potholes? Which one of those is correct?
Your Worship, Councillors, my understanding is the former is correct, and it's a centralised contract that's before in a contractual manner. But I understand
the latter.
Last winter is the latter, private companies, individuals.
No, I believe what Councillor Cousins was asking is it Somerset Council staff or a contractor who does the work, and I believe it's the latter, a contractor that does the work.
Please forgive me, it is a contractor.
So if I was contracting somebody to do some work for me, and then it was crap again after a week, I would be saying to them, can you do this as a kind of snagging thing for free? I wouldn't be expecting them to have to pay them again to fill up the hole again. And if I had a contract, I might build into it some kind of way of finding them. If their pothole reappeared many times, they could actually be fined by the council for doing a shit job. I mean, doing a bad job. So what I feel is that if I had a pothole company on the other hand, and I filled it up badly, I'd be thinking, there's my baked beans for next week.
Yeah.
Because I could just keep going back to the council, which is my golden goose, and keep charging the council, my golden goose, for doing a bad job on a whole. And I'm sure that the reputable companies that fill up our potholes don't do this, but I have no way of knowing.
Thank you.
Your Worship, Councillors, if I may, I do not know the contractual arrangements of our pothole contract, but I can ask the question. I doubt very much that it's a beam making factory.
Councillor Kirk.
Yeah, just in response to that, I'm pretty sure that there would be a stand, to be met by the contractors, otherwise they shouldn't miss their contract. So why there's if you're saying that kind of scenario, then you're going to have to do it again the following week. I mean, it can arise, but it shouldn't. I mean, that's usually a labour issue by the teams. They can't get the right guy out to do it or whatever. But contractually, no contractor is going to be that poor. No contractor. Within the limitations of what they're allowed to put on. That's the problem. They're allowed to put on airport stuff for a start. I mean, it wouldn't be problems.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you'll
Your Worship, just to reassure you, there are highway standards. I have written them. I've been assured by the lead councillor that those are part of the overall contractual arrangements.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to receive updates from lead councillors and representatives to outside bodies if there are any. Councillor Collins.
On the 26th of January, I attended the Accent Room Internal Drainage Board meeting, And again, the issue that comes up again and again is the cuts from national government to the Environment Agency, Somerset Rivers Authority budget for clearing out and maintaining the main rivers. And you only have to look at either side of Holden Ridge to see what happens when you don't maintain those main rivers. So I suggested to the Nuclear Authority members who were at that meeting that if I was a member of the lead flood authority for Somerset, and I wonder who that is, if I was a member of the lead flood authority for Somerset, I might be thinking about increasing a portion of the council tax to cover the money that is being cut by the central government to actually do that work on those main rivers. They know exactly how much it will cost to bring back that regime, and I think that it would not particularly put too large an amount on the council tax. And if I was a member of that lead flood authority sat in this room, I might be going back to find out just what could be done and how that might be achieved.
Is that the Somerset Rivers Authority?
No, the lead flood authority is
The Action Group.
Okay.
no, the lead Somerset authority is Somerset Council. This is why we've got a problem. See, they don't even know that they're the lead authority. So anyway, that went down like a ton of stuff with the councils present. But there we go. On the 2nd of February, I attended the LCN Transport Group meeting, the subgroup that is running Step Right and Thrive. And as councillors may recall, Glastonbury Town Council agreed to be the lead on the Step Right and Thrive project, and that's why when we look at our budgets, etc., and our payments, that's why those payments come in and go out under Step Right and Thrive. It's been a very successful project. It's not just the bus service to Mere that's part of it. There are many other aspects of this project that we're supporting. But what was sad was that we as a council, we probably haven't given it as much attention as councillors as we should. And I think that now that we're contributing towards an extension of the project, which we saw in the minutes of the last meeting, that we should do everything we can to help promote it. There is a new project worker, part-time project worker, Ben Baggias, who many of the councillors may know, who's doing wonderful work to try and improve the service to our marshes. And I think that this route is well worth us trying to, as indeed the route to Cascade, keep moving, as it were. So could councillors please take an interest? I'm sure it would be very easy if you type into Google, other search engines are available, Step Right and Thrive Somerset, you will be able to find links to the project, and it'll be very good for your champion.
Thank you, Bridget. I have an apology to make to especially the president of the Carnival lot, Steph at the back, because I couldn't attend the meeting on last Wednesday because I had to come to a culture meeting. But I believe that Glastonbury scored pretty well with the prize thing on. Was that Saturday evening? Saturday evening. Glastonbury did very well with the prizes. I don't know whether you want to comment on that.
Not really.
No.
You virtually said it all, actually. We found everything, and Glastonbury won most of the trophies.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Your worship, councillors, councillor John's website, 705. Of course, that came up in the local community network health committee meeting that I attended. And there were only 2 other parishes that did attend. I did note the lack of quorum nature of that meeting because, of course, that's along with Holden's LCN. One of the questions that came up was many of the 2 parishes that were there
just didn't feel connected to the set line rather than what it was trying to achieve. And so I just wanted to also convey the benefits of that service as John has just said.
Okay, thank you. The Town Deal Advisory Board was cancelled at short notice last month, so it should have been in late January, so we had to wait until the end of this month. And apparently it was all legal and they didn't have a decision, so they couldn't tell us anything, so they didn't. So again, I said, I'll run these complications further. Councillor Bennett?
Yes, I know that we've mentioned Red Brick, but associated with Red Brick, of course, is Bridie's Farm. And I do know that they were talking with the legal people, I think, about whether or not Bridie's Farm, as it is an already running project, it's not crippled in and of itself, but it could be crippled by the situation. Whether there's any update on how they are.
That was what we were waiting for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was told that there was a possibility that the money might be raised, or they might be allowed off having to pay back the money, or we don't know.
We don't know. So that's exactly what we were waiting for.
Just for the benefit of county council here, when is the next meeting?
27th of February.
We're available.
Anybody else have any council
I can give a tiny update.
Okay.
So yes, the Duncan Sharkey of Somerset Council did have something on the table that it could help the farm out with, but unfortunately, because the farm project was stopped, the Red Brick itself has the liability and responsibility to pay for the farm workers, the Riley's farm staff. Since the project was stopped in December, that was 2 months, and that has pushed the Red Brick over the edge, basically, and are looking at, are taking legal advice. Yeah.
We're sorry to hear that, of course.
Yeah, no, it's
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Okay, mayor's announcements. We had a Sunset Youth Alliance event in Festival Hall last Thursday. My Sheriff came and brought about there was about 80 odd different people who've done youth training, staff, and various others. But it was a really nice night. We're down there in the hall, which is beautiful. So that's good use of our space again. I'd like to ask councillors to remain behind for a couple of minutes when we close this meeting. So this couple of things shouldn't take very long. It's everything slightly shared. And I think that's it. Correspondence, communications, announcements.
I haven't got any for you, Worship.
Yeah, is that okay?
No, it's the Living Brew Day on the 28th of March, and I haven't got the blur up. Saturday the 28th of March is a free event. So you know where it's flying? I haven't got any for everybody, but I'll start doing that.
In the town hall?
In the town hall and the atrium.
Yeah.
I believe it might be one of the first.
I think 11 to 5.
First events in the atrium. 10 to 5. 10 to 5. Keynote speaker Paul Polsland, who is of Lawyers for Nature and the Water Guard, who's championing river charters, legal protection of rivers. And we'll have a panel of speakers, including Sarah Dyke. A whole variety of stuff. It's on Facebook. You can find out more about it on Facebook.
Thank you. Councillors?
Your Worship, this is very awkward sort of communications announcements that I have to give this council, but I feel that it needs to be raised voiced in this chamber. Immediately prior to last month's Glastonbury Town Council meeting, the Observer newspaper published an article on a white supremacist dating site, with profile links to both Conservative and Reform councillors. Listed by the Observer was, and I quote, Lilith Osborne, a former teacher and Conservative councillor in Glastonbury. The paper goes on to say, and I quote again, when she, which refers to Councillor Osborne, joined this site in 2020, before she was elected, she described her political orientations as pro-light. As a result of the article, I understand that Councillor Osborne was suspended from the Conservative Party in the investigation. And Sarah Dyke, our Member of Parliament, also called for her to stand down as a councillor in this council. So, given the councillors of this council should not bring this council into disrepute, I feel that it is very important, one, for the rest of us to not say anything at all. It is quite extraordinary if we keep quiet about something as serious as white supremacy and pro-white politics, which goes against everything I think this council stands for. We are extremely diverse community, and we abide by the law. So I'm sorry that Councillor Osborne isn't here tonight, because I would like to have made this announcement or this statement with her here, because I think it's very, very important. Given this issue, I would like the council to ask Councillor Osborne to formally respond to this chamber about the article and about her opinions and position, particularly this self-declared pro-white position. I think that without this council doing so, without this council doing so, it would almost look as if we are condoning the pro-white position, and it would be quite remarkable if we didn't say anything, considering that the Conservative Party and the MP have very clearly made a point. Thank you.
Councillor
Thank you, Your Worship. In past meetings, I have spoken out about possibly Gaza and the Palestinians. So is that included in this conversation?
Councillor
You mentioned law. I'm not aware that there's any law in it.
Am I correct you then? There's been lots.
Please.
So, if that's the situation, can you enlighten us as to what law it is that she is actually broken, or she has committed?
I didn't say that she has committed any crime particularly. I'm referring to laws such as the Equality Act and any subsections of that which relate to equality and diversity within communities. A person's race is a protected characteristic.
Absolutely. Councillor Cameron.
Your Worship, Councillors, I would just like to inform yourselves and members of the public, if you go onto my official Facebook site, I did also ask for Councillor Osborne to stand down when those reports came out at that time.
So, Your Worship, I've raised this issue because I feel that it's very important that this council asks a sitting councillor to explain a situation like this. And I'm looking for some sort of support from my colleagues around the table, because I'm sure I cannot be speaking alone.
Thank you. So would that suggest we need to have an extraordinary meeting to discuss it? And because obviously the meeting before the next council.
What I would ask is that this council asks the council in question to explain themselves.
Need a proposal?
I don't need anything about the council. The council is the values to Cassie.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think that part of the issue is not just the fact that she joined once who runs this dating site, which presumably is for dating, because that's why people join dating sites, but it's also because of the fact that the excuse that she gave publicly was that she was doing it for research on paganism, which, considering where she lives, seems to be the most ludicrous excuse that she could really possibly come up with. And I really think that she needs to explain and show us the research that she's done, and explain what exactly the research was, and give us some evidence of what it was actually for and about. Because I don't know if any of you recall, but a couple of years ago, my party, Glastonbury Independent Lives, organised an event in the United Reformed Church called Brian Quite a Lot. And one of the speakers we had there was someone called Dr. Liz Williams, who actually lives in Westgate, and she's an expert on this subject. So it's not as if she could not easily find somebody locally she could have talked to about this without having to resort to going onto a dating site, which surely is not a place you go for research about nature. I mean, I go on such research, but it's very different.
Anything else, Councillor?
Thank you, Roger. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Cousins. I think we should give the opportunity for Councillor Osborne to explain himself and retract any accusations that.
My understanding was this was all well before she was a councillor.
I'd just like to reiterate, I'd like the council to have the opportunity to speak for herself.
Yeah.
And whether it's at the next full council meeting, I think that's absolutely fine.
Okay. Councillor.
Thank you. So are we then asking Councillor Osborne beforehand? Are we sending a letter? Is this something that we're asking her to read and then come to the next meeting? Or are we having an extraordinary meeting?
I don't think we should have an extraordinary.
Okay.
Councillor.
Thank you. Very confident that Councillor Osborne will come here and explain herself, but I did have a chat with her saying that I reckon I would speak, saying she was going to seek the clerk's advice.
Then I propose we do that.
Thank you. Is that it? Councillor.
I don't know what that is, but all right, and my proposal, we need to sort of probably get Colin to write to Councillor Osborne and just reiterate what's been talked about in the past 10 minutes. And then away to reply, probably.
So yeah, if I take the subject matter completely out of what we're considering, the council can't make a decision on something that hasn't been on the agenda. So you can't make a formal decision as a council to do anything in this agenda item. That wouldn't be lawful because there's no reasonable expectation that any member of the public could have known that you would be making some kind of a decision. Any decision, taking the subject matter completely out of it. You can, however, as councillors, obviously communicate amongst yourselves and express that you would like an explanation, that it's not a formal decision that the council can make in this agenda item. But by all means, please do get in touch with Councillor Osborne and share any concerns or comments you may have and ask anything that you wish councillor to councillor, but it's not something at this moment you can make a decision on as a council.
Okay. Well, Your Worship, I feel that white supremacy is a serious issue. It is an extremely distasteful issue. We have a councillor who's been in a newspaper article, national newspaper article about this, and we as a council have not said a thing. I would expect at least, Your Worship, that you would request a member of your council to explain themselves to the rest of the council at a meeting.
Okay. We're not a court of law, so that's one thing. I've spoken with Councillor Osborne just in passing in the street. She told me what had happened, and I go there. Is it a legal case? Is there a prosecution? Was there any evidence for newspaper articles? Any of that? I don't know any of it.
Do you agree?
I'm pretty sure that Somerset monitoring officer would tell us if there was an issue.
No, absolutely. They wouldn't. We'd have to go to them to say it. Sorry, we'd have to report them. It's not their job to pick things up. Somebody would go to and ask.
Councillor Mann?
As the clerk has said, we can't actually decide on the subject this evening, but what we can say is that we would like it on the agenda for the next meeting. And I feel if we did that and also notify Councillor Osborne that this is going to be on the agenda, so that she can come in.
Thank you. Councillor Cook?
Yeah, I'm very concerned about this whole attitude that seems to be directed in a very inflated way. I'm not denying that there's a problem with white supremacy. I'm not denying that at all. There is a problem. But at the same time, with this lady, you want her to come here and explain to you.
No.
What? Mm-hmm. That's the way I hear it. That's what I'm hearing. But why are we even considering that? Because she, you know, if it was me, I wouldn't turn up. Simple. What are you going to do?
Okay, last two thoughts on it, and then we'll move on.
Thank you. I think going back to the original point, it was about bringing the council into dispute of the fact that it hasn't actually been talked about or discussed. That is the point. It's not a lynch mob, it's to actually say it is our responsibility to actually bring these things up. If it was a case of something else, we would be expected to bring this up. I don't think this is on a personal level. And it's very proper that we actually ask her, the evidence of the research that she was doing. Thank you very much. I just wanted to add that I think that obviously the purpose of the council is to represent all the diverse parts of the community, and I think that we have to recognise that there has been a massive swing towards racist attitudes in the country as a whole. And I don't think that turning a blind eye to this is something that we should absolutely be doing at all, because all we're then doing is condoning the attitude implicitly by saying nothing, because silence only ever helps the oppressor. If you stay silent, the people that are being oppressed continue to be oppressed, and it doesn't get any better for them. And we're very lucky in that we have a very diverse community. It's very much more diverse than pretty much any other place in Somerset. And we have a responsibility towards those people to ensure that they feel safe. And I think that allowing this sort of attitude to be expressed by somebody, however much in the past it was, we need to know why she went on and did that, because people in the town have the right to know whether or not they're actually going to be supported and whether they can feel safe in our town.
Thank you, Worship. In my experience, if you go to the monitoring officer, if it doesn't happen at council, then the monitoring officer will not take any stance on it. Thank you.
That's not
So
with regard to the monitoring officer, I was informed by a member of the public that she did make an objection to the monitoring officer. And she then told me that the monitoring officer had said to her that they could do nothing because the event was 10 years ago, before she became a councillor. And because it was before she became a councillor, then there was nothing that could be done. But that was from a member of the public making a complaint to the monitoring officer. And that's all the information I have and I think that maybe answers the question.
Okay. Anything for news release or quarterly?
I don't know, Your Worship, it's up to the council.
Can we, what Susanna was mentioning?
The bus.
The bus.
Oh, the train.
It's like training, yeah. Glastonburytraining.co.uk.
Yeah.
They just .org.
That's it.
Can we send what's on Facebook a really nice, concise description of the event? Send it to Connor.
Okay, actions arising from this meeting.
So, Your Worship, I have taken an action against the crime statistics item where the council, I don't know through which mechanism, I would suggest it's probably the Town Centre Crime Reduction Advisory Committee, tries to contact the Crown Prosecution Service in some manner. I have noted that the Town Council has decided at the moment to proceed with putting together an expression of interest for the Town of Culture competition, and to be able to submit that by myself, but with the work from the working group, which allows the council to work up until the deadline of the 31st of March. I've taken an action. I have written here verbatim, go back to the drawing board and reconsider in terms of the standing order. So I'll go back to the councillors who requested that and ask for their thoughts or comments. Agenda item number 12, if I remind myself, I will. The council has appointed a new internal auditor for 26-27, so myself and the responsible finance officer will follow through with that. And I've noted that the information about the train link survey and the Living Brew Day are to be shared alongside any of the other general operational decisions, which I'll just carry out as a matter of course, Your Worship.
Thank you. And I would like to change that about Councillor Cameron going on to the tender.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship.
Your Worship, and also I agreed to send the email to
the police, a copy of the town clerk. Okay. Date of the next ordinary meeting is the 10th of March, and I declare this meeting closed, and councillors are requested to be